Good morning, one and all, and welcome to the Huddersfield Town Social. It's nice to speak to you after a victory, the first one for 55 days, I believe. So, what's that, 8 weeks? Shocking. My name's Graham Mara, joining me as ever, Cameron Pope. The Aussie drinking his shandies is back from Australia in Kilroy. Naked Nick Barlow's preparing himself after making himself look a fool last week. We've all said shit like that before. And Gaz K, who's sat there waiting for his COVID vaccine. Hope we've all had a good week, gentlemen. And we will start with where the hell did that come from? Swansea, who have conceded sod all goals all season. I think it's 19 goals, and Town have put about a third of them past them this season. They've had a rock solid defence, but Carlos ball seemingly isn't for them. What a victory!
I actually don't remember the last time we went into a league fixture with expectation at such a low since we came down from the Premier League, and it was different then, wasn't it? Going down to Stamford Bridge and knowing you were going to be on the end of a tanking. It's a little bit different to welcoming Swansea at home and fearing the same. So no one gave us a chance, not least ourselves. And I think actually our group chat was probably the most telling example of that, because I think 3 of us predicted a 3-1 win for Swansea with Town to score first. And at half time, I was one of them, and at half time I was considering retraining as a fortune teller, because I thought, well, we've seen this all before, haven't we? And you know what? Having been on top of the first half an hour, I thought we made the same mistakes as we do time and time again, namely overplaying from the back and executing game management really poorly. 10 seconds before half-time, we let Wickham back into the game, and 40 seconds before half-time, we let Swansea back into the game. And I don't think Ryan Schofield will want to see that replay back too many times. It's a soft free kick. You shouldn't get beaten at your near post like that. But second half, full credit to the men on the pitch, a number of whom I thought had the best game of the season. For me, Alex Bayeko, undisputed man of the match. All the simple stuff he does correct. He's collected, he's composed on the ball, and also we've seen progression in him. He's grown every single game he's played for us this season. He's come a long way since was it Plymouth we first saw him in the FA Cup, and we were a bit unsure that first half. He grew in that game, and ever since he's become better and better and better. I also don't think he has the tendency to grind attacks to a halt, like we sometimes see in Jonathan Hogg's play. And also, he's got skill as well. He's exciting to watch. He took Jordan Morris out of the equation twice in one move on the edge of our box just before the hour mark. So, I'm really excited to see more of him. And I hope that he's one for the retained list now at the end of the season. The other name you have to mention is Lewis O'Brien. He was back to the Lewis O'Brien of old. I think he linked up well with Jayden Brown down that left flank. He got on the score sheet again for the first time since that Millwall win back at the end of October. That was really positive to see him back playing like at his best once again. It's been a long time coming, that, and so I think a lot of people will be really pleased and hope we can continue that. Really, maybe that is the position for him this season. It just seemed to work for him, but you cannot. The magnitude of that win is not going to be lost on anyone. That was the time where we most needed the win. And looking at it now, I think Ian might have said in the podcast before that 45 points will do it, or I think we've tweeted to that effect. 45 points will do it now, I think, and that means 3 more wins in the rest of our games. That's huge now. That's huge. I actually now have changed in that mindset and thinking, right, we're 50-50 for relegation. I think that could be the win that sets us on track to stay up. We're now 7 points clear of the relegation zone. Okay, Rotherham, Sheffield United, Wickham, all got games in hand as of Derby. But, I think I look at midweek's fixture as well, and that's equally important. I think, look, now is the chance where we push on. So, for me, I think we're heading down the right track now. Fantastic goal for 1-0. I thought Lewis O'Brien and Brown working well on that overlap. Good finish from Grant. 2-1. Another thing that I wanted to point out is Lewis O'Brien. Why not take a shot from there? For years we lamented Town's fear of having a pop at goal. So many times we tried to walk it in, and it was to the angst of everyone. Our second and fourth goals came from exactly that. The third goal, Holmes has got into the right area of the pitch, finished it well. The fourth is just spectacular. That is just majestic. And it's a long time since I've seen a Town goal of that calibre. And so, yeah, for me, it looks, I look at it and it raises questions of who we keep at the end of the season. I think Bayeko has made his biggest statement yet, he stated his biggest claim yet to stay into the end of the season. And for me, that was an enormous win at the time we most needed it.
Well, I have a message for Swansea, and that's: can we play you every week? I mean, the Swansea fans must be sick of the sight of Huddersfield. I think the difference yesterday for me was it felt like a team performance. Everybody played their part yesterday, and I think that's been a weakness for me at times this year. And we played well and kept the game going for 90 minutes. Yes, Swansea had a spell in the lead up to half time, but in any championship level game, no matter how well you play, your opposition's going to have a period of dominance. So, we nearly saw that out, and I was hopping mad about the goal at half time. I thought it was never a foul. The referee gave the most bizarre free kick I've ever seen, and then we set up two midgets in the wall. And, Schofield might as well have just stood there pointing at the corner. For somebody of Hurahan's quality to leave that much room is a schoolboy error. But, we were all fearful. But, they came out and they absolutely blew Swansea away in a 7 or 8 minute spell. And then what was really pleasing for me was we closed the game out. Apart from one or two moments of Naby Sarr madness, we looked solid, we looked composed, we kept the ball. I felt for the lad that went off. That looked a pretty nasty injury, but for once we actually managed 10 men better than before. Maybe because we didn't have to score, perhaps. But why did we look so good? I think the three at the back made a big difference yesterday. I'm with you, Cam. I think Bayako is definitely a centre half in a back three for me. He came out with the ball. He almost took Hogg out of the game in terms of distribution and left Hogg to just do the tackling, which I thought was good. Lewis O'Brien, I thought he was excellent yesterday. He deserved that goal. And Dwayne Holmes was busy. I think he'd been busy in previous games, but really ineffective. And that second strike, it was bobbling all over. I mean, it's not just a sweet strike. It's a sweet strike on a ball that was difficult to hit cleanly. I mean, if you've seen the replay from behind the goal, it couldn't have been more perfect. And the other one that deserves a mention, I thought, was young Aaron Rowe. I thought he was brilliant. Every time he got the ball, he wanted to do one thing, which was to get at the fullback. And Swansea, whether they didn't know enough about him or whether they didn't fancy him, continually left him one-on-one with the fullback. And he was having the fullback on toast. He was going to the byline. I mean, when was the last time we had a winger going to the byline and putting crosses in? And we took our chances. I think that was the other thing yesterday. The first goal, we had one of those midweek. It bounced on the post and came out. Saturday, it bounced on the post and went in. And I guess you sometimes need that stroke of luck. But then we had three chances pretty quickly in the second half and took all three, which was excellent. I think it's vitally important now when we go to Derby on Tuesday night, we take some of that with us. We've got to get something out of that game. I mean, you're talking about 9 points, Cam. I think it's probably going to be 12. I guess we can talk about the upcoming fixtures later. But in the next 6 or 8 games, Town can have this done and dusted. All they need to do is try and replicate that kind of form. And fingers crossed when we go to Derby, the rule of the X strikes and Dwayne Holmes wants to stick it to Wayne Rooney and repeat that kind of finish. So, yeah, a great afternoon all round.
Oh, yes, lads. Yes, finally a win. It's taken 10 games, but at last we've got a win. Oh, what a performance. It's got to the point where it's been so long, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so elated after the game. I think I had a boner for 10 minutes. I'd sit cross-legged. My missus was like, what's going on? What's wrong with you? Oh, lads, what a win. Vallejo distributing the ball really well. O'Brien back to his best, driving forward, making things happen. Holmes, 2 amazing goals, finally showing us why we brought the guy back. And again, I'm going to have a special mention for Aaron as well. I thought it was absolutely outstanding on that left-hand side, driving forward, putting some really good balls into the box. And Swansea couldn't cope with it. I don't want to have a go at Schofield too much. Gaz already said that, he left to leave your near post open against someone like Hurahan with that left foot. He's got to be more organised and switched on. And he's a young lad. He's learning. He'll come better the more he plays. He just needs to command his box more. He just needs to have more of a presence, better organisation. But he'll get there. But lads, I'm not going to say anything negative about that yesterday, because if we can't celebrate that and go over the top, when can we? What a fantastic result, and I'm absolutely buzzing. But it means nothing if we then go to Derby and lose 3-0, does it? We've got to take this now. We've got to take all the positives. The players have got to take the confidence in to that game on Tuesday night and get another result at Derby. And then if we get that, suddenly it's looking a lot better. Lose the next 2 games and all of a sudden we're looking over his shoulders again. So this I said on Twitter, this could be the turning point of the season now. That could be the game there that changes everything. And let's hope it does, and let's hope that we start looking up again and not down.
Thought you were going to dip into the playoff word there, Nick. I thought you were just looking up. I thought that was just going to sneak into the equation. We've been on social media a little bit yesterday after, to me, a performance that was just great, all around fantastic. But rather than talk about the players' performance, which to a man was great, even Schofield, free kick aside, I thought he's learning. He's going to have games where he's not necessarily as on it as he should be, or as goalkeepers in their mid-20s are. Right? He's inexperienced. We know that. But for me yesterday, the most important thing is we are witnessing the evolution of Carlos Corberán. Now, there was an issue we've had with him, and many people have had, in a lack of a plan B, that he stays to his game plan and we don't deviate from it very much. But to me, since the Wickham game, and Greg spoke of something we spoke of last week, in that he had Johnny Ogg dropping in to cover Keogh's lack of pace. I think it was behind Pippa on the right-hand side against Wickham, and it didn't work, right? We got fucked up and deservedly beaten in that one. But it just showed that there was a willingness to change, a maturity in an inexperienced coach that's young in his career. He's finding his feet, just as we are with the new status of Town being a Championship club and not a Premier League club. But now he's willing to change things up a little bit. And the call yesterday to go with Baiko at the back in a back three won the game for us. That set the template for the victory alone. Now, we know we are competitive in games. My big issue last week was that it felt a bit like the demons were setting in again, like under Jan Seiwer at the beginning of last year, where we'd go ahead and then we'd concede, and everything kind of fell in on itself a little bit. And yesterday, it could have happened, couldn't it? When Schofield free kick issue, when that goes in, you're 1-1, you're thinking, oh, what's going to happen here? But with the new structure that we have, it just gave everyone a bit of belief. And to me, even though Swansea are pushing at the right end of the table, what, they fourth before yesterday, going into that with a few games in hand that could have potentially put them at the top of the table. But for some reason, they suit our system for us down to the ground. We just play well against them. And I think it's a little bit of ignorance on Swansea's part. We are a predictable team, or we have been up until recently. And they were about playing their own way regardless of what we play. And now Luton and Wickham and other teams that we've played against recently haven't done that. They're like, right, we're going to let Naby Sarr take it out from the back because he's not great on the ball, or we'll let Richard Keogh do it because he's a little bit slow. If we drag him out, we can try and get in behind him there. There's a gap between Pippa and the right centre-back every week and blah, blah. Yesterday, Swansea just tried to play their own game, and our chaos system does work a little bit better against them going forward. And that's why we've put, 6 past them now in 2 games, which will be far more than any other team does over the course of the season against them. But the game itself, everything that could go right for us did. Now, the goals were all fantastically taken, but I'll go through them one by one. The first goal, Fraser Campbell, we managed to recycle it at the back post, which is great. But Campbell hits the post and goes in the back of the net. That can bounce out 10 times out of 20. You never know which way it's going to go. But went in our favour. We earn it because we do create chances. We're, I think, 8th when it comes to goals for this season, with 38 for the year. So we do create chances to score goals. But yesterday, the first goal there is posted in, and then for Lewis O'Brien's shot, he's taken a massive deflection, and the goalkeeper's lost that, and it's gone in the back of the goal. Great, you've got to make your own luck. I get that. The third goal, the Holmes goal from Rowe, knocking a beautiful ball back after Fraser Campbell falls over. The ball hits his head and falls just into Rowe's run. He puts a nice pass through there, and Holmes is fantastic. And for the last goal, Holmes's finish is wonderful. But he's pulled his leg back to have a shot at that before it's actually taken the bobble. So he has made an adjustment within his stride, but how many times do we see that happen and it's blown out for a throw-in? Never mind nestles in the back of the net. When it's on, sometimes it's just on. And for us yesterday, it really did. Everything just went in our favour. The problem is with relegation-threatened teams, a lot of the time when the chances fall in your favour, you don't take them and you end up losing games where you should win. For Town to win yesterday, it was fucking amazing. It's amazing. We took what was there to be taken against a team that do play to our strength, regardless of where they are in the table. But again, for me, the most important thing is Carlos isn't rigid to his old system that we had to, and I will say, suffer through for the last 7 games of the 10-game losing streak or whatever it was without a win. And now we're seeing him experiment with new things. Maybe he's new confidence. Maybe he's played more with the lads in training and now understands a bit better what they can do. But the system that we had yesterday had far more flexibility and bespoke parts than what we've seen since the beginning of the season. And I'm genuinely, after one game, it's a bit happy-clappy again, isn't it? But I'm excited to see how the rest of the season goes, because if we are willing to make changes like that, it won't be as predictable as it has been up until now.
I think the silence in his faces now when we're looking at, I'm watching us all, and I'm normally seeing like the heads of like nodding in frustration and the teeth kind of grinding, and everyone just sat there and was listening to Ian and Gaz and just like kind of like with Rye smiles, and it's the first time we've seen that in such a long time. Like I never ever saw this coming, but like what a treat, what an absolute treat. And yeah, I think you're right to mention out Aaron Rowe as well. In fact, yeah, I want to correct myself. Yeah, I said that Jayden Brown linked up well with Lewis O'Brien for that first goal. Of course he didn't, because he didn't come on till the 85th minute. I meant Aaron Rowe. But it's just I think now though that's such a pertinent point that if we don't make this count on Tuesday, then what's it for? Because whilst it's lovely to score 4 goals, it's the first time in 3 years. These aren't the games that define your season, are they? You know. And then, so I think, yeah, absolutely, Tuesday is the bigger game. And so we have to take the momentum into it now. That's where I feel that, our thin squad might come back to bite us on the backside once again, because there's not a lot of turnaround, is there, between Saturday 3 o'clock and Tuesday at 7. But no, I think now the one thing that's changed is that there's actually anticipation back now, and I think there's a belief that we can actually get something. We've seen that we've actually got a plan B and can be fluid, and Carlos can mold into something different, because the atmosphere was getting really sour. And we've even seen the S word, the sack word, being thrown around a little bit as well. And so, and not least maybe from ourselves. And so, no, I think that this is just, it's not lost on anyone, is it? The importance of getting a win now, but my goodness me, it just ratchets up the tension for Tuesday.
When you look at the next games, we've got Derby Tuesday, Preston Saturday, and then Birmingham the following Tuesday, all teams in and around us. Then we've got Cardiff, who are obviously the other end. Then you've got QPR and Wednesday. So, in the next 6 games, we've got 5 teams that are in and around us. Now, we haven't done so well against teams that are in and around us this year. That's my concern, because, as you say, they'll sit deep and say to us, well, come on then, boys. If you think you're good enough, try and play through us. I think Ian's point about Swansea playing their own game actually fell into our hands, because they were as quick at the back as we are. I mean, Fraser Campbell burned Bidwell off. How slow must Bidwell be? So I think we've, and with you, Cam, we've got to take advantage of the confidence that's going to bring. I think there's the Chinos were back, which helped. The New Balance were back, which helped. So need to make sure we take everything we can into the next game.
Hey, look, they're not as easy as they look, these fixtures, have they? Derby, they've won the last 3 home games. Preston, I mean, does anyone remember us winning at Preston in our lifetime? I can't. I can't remember us ever winning at Preston. It's about time that changed. Look, you're right. We do struggle in these type of fixtures, but we definitely need to be getting some points in these next 6 games. Easier said than done, but I think this formation that we played suits us. I think he needs to try and stick with that, 3 at the back and wing backs, and the one ray of light on the horizon as well is that we're starting to get some more players back from injury as well. It was good to see Stearman out there on the pitch, I have to say, towards the latter end of the game. So the more players we can get back, the better position we're going to be in. But tough games, but we really have to, out of the next, I would say, 3 games, get at least 4 points, definitely.
Well, last time we put a target on points, we didn't win anything, so we best leave that. Still, was it 7 points you wanted, Gaz, or 5? I can't remember.
It was 7. It was 7 from 5 games, and we got 1.
I don't think. Don't put targets on it. Let's be a bit more sensible. But no, you're right. It is just a season-defining kind of patch of games, because if you can come out on the right side of it, it allows Carlos to do a little bit more experimenting to see what he needs for next season. Because at the minute we are linked to Ravel Morrison, which is interesting. If you can, I'd encourage you to listen to Rio Ferdinand's podcast with him, because it was quite telling, the kind of stuff that the lad had to go through. But looking from that as just objectively as a Town fan, that's a lad who's never played more than 30 games at the age of 27 for any club, and has been at 12 clubs. So that's the kind of desperation that Town are looking at the minute. I'm not saying he's a fantastic player. I remember seeing him in under 21s. He was absolutely terrific. And Nias has gone on the back burner, probably because of the new point system required with Brexit, and meaning we can't really dip into foreign markets like we once did. So now we're linked with Yaya Sanogo, which, wasn't very good when he was at Arsenal, and he's definitely not been very good since. So, if Town can get out of that period again with some points, it means that we don't have to dip into that free transfer market, because there's a reason that market is available as it is. It's full of players that aren't match fit, and it's full of players that probably aren't quite up to the standard, are they?
Well, look, I think what we're all sort of thinking now is it's quite clear that we seem to be stalling these moves, don't they? How long have we been linked with these players now? And you're looking at what we're in late February, and season ends in May, and now you've got to get exactly players back to match fitness, players who haven't really seen a ball in competitive action for some of them for quite a long time. And so, yeah, I think of the names we've been linked with, Ravel is definitely the top of that list in terms of caliber of player. And if he were to throw in a few good performances, he's probably the one that could most benefit us, I would imagine. And okay, yeah, his background notwithstanding, I don't buy into that really, especially if we've got this moniker as the working class club. We need to be taking players of all backgrounds, and he is definitely a product of his environment. It was a fantastic interview that he had with Rio Ferdinand, and very enlightening. So I'd be up for that personally. I think that's the one I'd like to see. However, I don't see the wisdom now in bringing in 3 or 4 players in the free market, and that might sound strange to those who've been listening all season and they've heard us clamouring for more players and quantity as well as quality. But that was earlier in the season, and now we've got a handful of games left, 3 months left. We've not really got the time to pay these players wages to get them back up to fitness standard. We've seen, we got Warden in at the start of the season, and he's still not match fit now. So it's a gamble, isn't it? And so, if you can cherry pick one that works well, then fair enough. It does seem that we're treading water and waiting to see if we really do need these players to come in or not. And maybe there is some wisdom behind that. It's frustrating for fans, of course, but okay, we have been bitten before where we've spent money on players that we didn't need. And I'm not suggesting we're going to be throwing massive £14 million transfer bids at these players. It doesn't work like that, does it? But it's the same principle. We've got to spend wisely, and we've got to think, okay, we need to now think and be frugal and spend. Okay, what's going to keep us in the division? But hey, we're good at being frugal, so I would back that. But I don't know, it does worry you when you see these names and you see these cast-offs and rejects from other clubs. I don't know if that always works out, but hey, if you go in for 3, maybe you're going to come up trumps with 1. And so, yeah, okay, I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking Ravel Morrison, that could be an interesting signing. We've always said that another striker in Sonogo, or Nias as well, who's obviously got experience at this level and higher, that would do me. But I don't know, personally, I think maybe it's a bit too little too late now. And if we could just go for one of them, I won't be as disappointed as I will have been with the transfer business for the rest of the season.
I think the Ravel Morrison one probably tells us that Eiting's not coming back. So I think Eiting's done for the season now. I think his race is run. He was another one that had a habit of breaking down. I mean, that's one of the bizarre things for me, Cam. You picked Danny Ward there, and I know everybody makes a joke about it, but we have been, as a lot of clubs do at our level, when you want to try and build a successful team, we find players that have had issues at their prior clubs because that makes them cheaper. And often that issue is injury, but then you put them in an environment where we absolutely batter them in training. So why do you sign people who are injury prone and then absolutely hammer them? That's something I struggle to understand. I think, we've been asking constantly for more bodies. So, if they bring him in, then great. I assume he'll be on a deal that's affordable for both parties, and there'll be an option for extension for both parties, one would assume. I think Ravel Morrison is probably one that I'd be really interested to see. Can we get something out of him that other teams have struggled to get out of a lad who had, let's be honest, in his early 20s was destined for the top, the very top, and he lost his way somehow. But, listen, there are a lot of coaches, Warnock, people like that, who build teams out of flops, out of people who failed elsewhere. It's quite a common theme. Whether Carlos has got that in his locker on top of trying to cope with his first management job in his career, and the challenge of the pressure relegation and all the injuries he's got to cope with, and so on, and the expectation, I guess, has he also got it in his locker to be able to find players who are underperforming and turn them into world beaters would be another question for me.
If he can't do that, Gazzo, he's at the wrong football club, isn't he? Because we don't have the money to go out and buy the best. Apart from a couple of years in the Premier League, I suppose, and the promotion season in the Championship, we did go out and get some decent players with good reputation. But the club that we aren't going to be able to go out and buy the finished article. We're not. Like you say, you've got a few different options. You've got up-and-comers that are cheap, like Sorba. You've got like Jordan Rhodes was at once upon a time. Then you've got you guys that are injured, and hopefully it's a one-off injury with Eiting, and he can come back, and because he's a young lad, he can recover better than most late 20s and 30-year-olds do, and he can hopefully play the really fitness-intensive system that we do. That unfortunately didn't work. Then you got, like you say, players that have had issues at different clubs, and I think Ravel, again, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, what a player! What is he the same player now? No one knows. With no one seen him play. It would be a low risk signing till the end of the season. So the upside is that he's fantastic and we have him for a few years. Wonderful. The low risk is that he's gone in the summer. It never quite worked. Or what would happen to Town is he'd do great until then, and then with Simon on a multi-year deal, and that's when the trouble happens. We've seen that many times before. The only issue I'd have with the Ravel signing is Morrison had issues with the people he surrounded himself with, according to everything you've ever listened to. And geographically, Huddersfield isn't that far away from Manchester, where the problems were initially. So that alone is a bit of a potential problem. Like, you can't ignore that. You cannot ignore that. But again, all this to me comes back to the end of January. At the start, we thought we were fine. We were doing wonderful. We were going to be able to coast it through to the end of the season. And as we've spoken about before, it got to the end of January and the club started flapping. The people behind the scenes started flapping. On the field, you could see the players, the demons arrived again. And psychologically, you could see them flapping when goals went in. There was any sort of adversity, people just fell in on themselves. Just after the 1-win yesterday, I think we find ourselves in a very different situation. A win against all odds, Efisodje doing us proud still, is just what you need when things are going wrong. And to do that yesterday was so good. It does change for me the outlook on needing to bring new players into the end of the season, just to have that little bit of creative spark. Dwayne Holmes yesterday created more than we need from any other player. Like, he was amazing in that final third. And if that's the Dwayne Holmes we have until the end of the season, and on the off chance that Koroma is back within a month or so, I don't know if he's out until the end of the season. If he's back in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, that's another goal getter there. How much more do we need? How much, if we're in this rebuild mode? We spoke like last week. I wasn't on, of course. You guys was talking about Carlos, and now for me we're in the situation where we've decided to rebuild in the summer, and now you can waste time. Tristan in here, so I can't have that debate. But we can waste time discussing whether it should be done that way or shouldn't be done that. Whatever, we've decided to go that way, and we've got to stick at it now. We have to go for that. So the call is, do you save as much money now as you can to be able to bring in better things in the summer? And that is a balancing, a business decision, I imagine. The footballing side hopefully takes care of itself now with a win. I'm not with you guys. I don't think it's a must-win win against Derby. I wouldn't have expected 3 points from either game. So I'd have thought 2 at most from the pair of them. And to come away with 3 points from Jill 1, great. We're below par, above par. But, anyway. It's just, I don't think we need the signings we needed just a few days ago. I don't. I think we can go through to the summer and dig into the rebuild process that Phil's sold us all on, and Carlos has spoken about, and that's what we're going for. So let's stick at it at this point. We can't shit it the bed now just because things have gone a little bit wrong in January. We have to stick at it and do everything we can and see it through as best we can. I didn't think I'd ever say that, but here I am saying it.
Well, so I was just going to say, would you have said that before yesterday's win?
Yes, I did actually. I said it after Wickham. People talking about sacking Carlos and Middlesbrough midweek. People were talking about that. I'm thinking, no, you can't. You can't sack him. If you brought him in to do this, you brought him in for a rebuild in the summer. So even a relegation to League One for me prior to yesterday meant the club had to keep Carlos. I can disagree with the Carlos appointment when I'm the biggest Cowley fan going, but at this point, if that's what you're going for, you've got to stick with it. You have to stick with it because it does take years to build a system where a club can flourish for a longer period of time. It does. And if you're trying to do it bigger than just the manager alone, so you want the backroom staff to be there for when the manager moves on, and we've got the system and we've got the B team flourishing, and there's 20 players in there that we hope to step up in the next 24 to 36 months. They're going out on loan to League Two team. That takes a long time. And if there is short-term pain, that kind of has to happen sometimes for long-term success. I wouldn't have done it. I'd have kept the Cowleys and I'd have built around them because I think they are the best small club builders, or they are of the last 5 years. Factually, look at where they've come from with Lincoln, and look where Lincoln are now. And I know they're not in control of them now, but they built the system there that allows them to succeed even now they've gone. That's what I wanted them to do at Town at a bigger stage. And you know, I know, Nick knows, and Cam knows, everyone, and Greg, everyone knows on this podcast that they will eventually do it at this level. They will do it at this level when a club gives them everything they want to succeed. They need full control, and we weren't willing to give it, be it financial, be it whatever reason, that's fine. We wanted to go a different route where the club held the power, not the coach. And we know that is a lot on the financial aspect of it. We can control how much we're spending on players a little bit better. So hopefully find extra value there. Whereas obviously the managers want to spend as much money as they can. We get that with the Cowleys. But I did say this last week. If this is what you've brought Carlos in to do, you've got to let him do it, and you sink or swim, not today, not tomorrow, but in a year or so. If it's working, then that's my kind of time frame on it, guys. I don't know where you're at.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think I said last week when I was taking the rise out of Phil's review, I felt that we need experience because I'm with you. I don't think Carlos could do any more than he's doing. Honestly, I don't. I think the club keep talking about having this plan and sticking to this plan and being optimistic about this plan, and then start to talk about bringing in Yaya, Sanogo and Oumar Niasse. I mean, how does that fit, Ian, within this plan? It doesn't fit within the plan, does it? So, they either back themselves and the plan and do it properly and get organised and get some experience around them so they can plan properly for the future, or they do what they do, which is fingers crossed Carlos pulls it out the bag and we'll float around trying to nick some deals where we can. So I don't want Carlos gone, and I never did. But I did feel like he was starting to flounder because he was not getting the feedback he needs from above. I mean, what was interesting apparently on Radio Leeds at half time, I don't know if any of you are listening to the I Follow or Radio Leeds, but just after Schofield let the goal in, Bromby came flying down from the seats and collared Danny Schofield as he was going down the tunnel, and apparently they had, quote, a heated discussion. So, is that the level of involvement that they're having, that they're actually getting involved in, telling them what's good enough and what's not good enough? I don't really know. But I'm with you, Ian. If we're in it now, as my old boss used to say, you can't be half pregnant. And this is one of those scenarios we have to commit to it fully for it to work. But is the club, are the board committing to it as much as we think they should be?
I don't know. We don't know just yet on that, right? But on the Bromby stuff with Schofield, I loved it. I absolutely loved seeing that. And now I don't like interference at all levels. I don't, right? But to me, between that and seeing Stearman on the bench, the players are actually committed. The people care. You can see them flapping, and that's what I think is happening, guys. There, I think they're all terrified. They're terrified of relegation. We've seen 2 years of players not giving a shit, so I'm not going to get too hard on people caring. Like I say, Stearman, he's not been the greatest player for us, but you see him there on the bench, and he's at it. He's living it like a fan is. And then people say, oh, it's because he gets paid. It's because it's nothing to do with that. That passion is because he does genuinely care. Cares about animals, and he cares about Huddersfield Town. And I'm never gonna criticize that. And for me, I don't think Bromby overstepped that mark, guys. I don't think he did. I think it's just they want what's best for us. And I think that, and we've all criticised some of the shitty decisions they've made, and we'll continue to criticise some of the shit decisions they'll make over the summer. And I do put a lot of it down to inexperience. But if you're paying pennies, you get inexperienced people, don't you? Just hope, amongst all hopes, that you somehow concoct everything together, and when you get extra value from what you're financially putting into it. So I'm happy for once that people do seem to care again, because that's the first time these last 2-3 games first time since the Wagner season, the Premier League season, the first Premier League season that we've seen it. And it feels a lot longer than just 24 months ago, but it feels like an awful lot longer since we've seen people that seem to genuinely care about the club from top to bottom. So it makes me happy anyway. Not much does anymore, but that did yesterday.
Well, there you have it. As Cam said earlier, Town sit comfortably for now, 7 points above the relegation zone, with a couple of key games coming up. Key, if we're going to see Nick running around naked around Huddersfield, I think that's the most important thing. Whether he lives up to that and whether COVID allows it is a different question. Right now, it's the best place to leave it. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this Sunday morning. A quick podcast for you because God knows what's going to happen. We're back to Saturday, Tuesday/Wednesday games again. It's a key part of the season, and we will definitely see what's happening as it progresses. Gaz, Cam, Nick, Ian, thank you very much for your time. I've been Greg Mara. This has been Huddersfield Town Social. Until next time, goodbye.